From Discussion Junkies, or DJ C3 from Discussion Junkies, and this is the C3's Tips and Tricks to ELO Heaven Part 1. I was going to type this one out, but I've decided to simply, I'm going to just turn off so no one sees the account name for my account. I decided to just do a vlog or more about this one, so just to try to give everyone a little bit more information to see how this goes, because there's a lot to type out. I'm still logging in. This just takes forever, doesn't it? Okay, it worked. So anyways, oh my god. Okay, have my friends list off. Well, anyway, so what you really want to work on, what you really want, the first step is the champion selection screen. This is literally probably my opinion, one of the most important parts of all of solo queue. So overall, you have to kind of think of it as like a tier list. So I'm just going to go to my own champion so it's easier. So when you go into your champion selection screen, you really want to try to get your role, but you also want to be flexible. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you should know every role, but it's true but not true. I recommend trying to stay on the same role. Like me, I can play any role if it comes to it, but I really stick to top and mid. And in high challenger, you know, it's in diamond, really high diamond 1, it's really easy to get your role because people play consistently the same stuff to improve on that same role. But low ELO, that's kind of hard because people just want to kind of have fun. Most of the people don't want to improve. They're just trying to fuck around like, oh, I want to go mid to play Kennen because, you know, I've never played Kennen and I want to go mid, but I main AD carry. So you got that kind of stuff. So you want to have, my opinion, 3 roles. 1 main role, 2 off roles. You want to try to be a little flexible, but you also don't want to rage. So you want to see what everyone says. Or you can say, you know, I main top, but I can play other roles. And try to let them know that that's your best role, your strongest there, but give them the options too, because you don't want to come off say I only top only and call it, and you don't want a problem. You want to try to calm everyone down in the champion selection screen. Now, another thing is, if you can try to form a team count, this is very, very difficult low ELO. I think more than 30% of low ELO games are lost at the champion select screen because of just bad team counts. So what you want to try to do is lead your team into picks. And I'm not saying look at LCS and be like, oh, he's OP playing. I'm just saying try to take what they know how to play and make a team comp around it. If your first pick picks a Kali, that means you're going to have an assassin mid. This assassin mid's not going to bring you much utility, so you're going to have to find ways of other utility. So you know what? You don't have initiation. Now, you're sitting there at the 4th pick. That means your 2nd and 3rd pick are going to, let's just theory craft and say they pick Lee Sin jungle, and they pick what would be, and they pick Fiora top. Okay, so now you got a Fiora top, a Kali, mid, and a Lee Sin jungle. Right there, that's a pretty bad team comp. The reason being is you have 2 real strong solo laners, they're really good duelists, but you also don't have utility for team fights. And that's what low ELO is constant team fighting. And it's really problematic because you can't really break the team fight away, because that's just ingrained into the low ELO. It's just team fight, go mid, bash each other's heads off till one team slowly comes out of a head. So what you really want to do, low ELO, is try to build a team fight team that can also snowball and win out of laning phase. So you have those 3 picks. What are you going to pick? Say you're going your AD carrier support. So what you're really going to want to do in that situation for support is you're going to either want a front end initiator with hard CC, so you could do a Leona initiation, or you could go more of a Nami, where you can have defensive initiation, a little initiation, and peel, and you can kind of control the flow with the fight, so you're more defensive. You could go with an Alistar pick, who is really good at, he can initiate, and he can disengage, and he can be defensive. You could also go with See, I don't have all the supports. Let me just do all, and then just click support, just so I can see them all. So Brom's mainly permaband, I've noticed. So, and Thresh is really good because he can initiate, he can disengage, he has good teamfight utility, and his box is a really good separator of tanks. So Thresh is really good too. So that's what those are kind of the supports you want. You're gonna either want Thresh, Leona, or Nami in that situation. I would say Sona, but I really don't like Sona in that setting because she's way too squishy. Even though Nami is on the squishy side, Nami is a lot more safe with her abilities and such. So let's move on to AD carry. So you have a Fiora and an Akali. Those are two really good frontline champs that go in and dive. Now, what's going to happen, is my opinion, if I could think of the team fight, is 4 people will go onto those tanks and 1 tank will go for the back end. Now, what you're going to want in this situation is a really strong AD carry who can carry from the back line and has good self-peel. And the reason for this is you don't have a peeling front line. So we're going to go to Marksman, and what out of these AD carries are really strong at self-peel? So you have the choices, in my opinion, you got Corki, really good at that because he's really good at kiting the fight back. You'll always have Tristana because she's so good late game, and she'll slowly scale and fill in the blanks where the Akali and Fiora are. She's got the wave clear for late game. She can delay the game with that. She scales really hard, and she's really safe. Twitch is also a pretty good champ like that. But what you don't want, you don't want a Vayne, you don't want the Draven. You don't even actually want a Graves in this situation. You really want to get long range safe. You want to be long range and safe. You want the Caitlyn, the Tristana, the Twitch, and those are pretty much your 3 go-tos in that situation. You could go with Jinx, but I just dislike Jinx right now because her ult's kind of bugged, and it's just really unreliable at this moment. You don't want Lucian because he's too close, and he can the fight can then come to Lucian. He'll have to do a lot more kiting than he already does. So that's like kind of a bad team comp that does happen about 25% of the time. People just pick whatever they want, but you really have to try to lead your team and fill in the blanks. If you have an Akali, just see if your top player can play anything else other than like a Fiora or a carry. Try to get a utility bruiser tank top. If you get a full tank top, you get a bruiser jungle, or you can even go AP junglers if you do get a tank top. If you get a bruiser top, go bruiser jungle, or you could do a tank jungle. If you have real 2 strong tanks, go a hard carry. You can go in like you could go in a Lucian, you can go in for a Vayne, you can go for a Kog'Maw, the Jinx, the Tristana always, because those are still hard carries, and those are the picks you want. There's a few picks that I say are very toxic for low ELO. These are picks that, in my opinion, people can't play well enough to make it work. I recommend never playing Drave in low ELO. The reason being is he's literally terrible. He's pretty bad late game. Well, he's decent late game in the right hands, but he's not that good. He doesn't scale that hard. He's not the greatest team fighter, but he's really good in lane. But the thing is a lot of people will learn the mechanics who play Draven, so just try to stay away from Draven, and really just try to stick to the Tristana, the Caitlyn, the Corkis, and stay away. I mean, Kog'Maw is a good pick, but he's also very hard to play. He's one of the hardest AD carries because of his whole kit. He's really hard to position. He's mechanically pretty hard. So what you really want to do is just try to stay with the safer AD carries if you're an AD carry. If you're a support player, you really want to play a decent, a good handful of supports. And there's about 4 I recommend. I always recommend Nami. I think she's really strong. Thresh, Leona, who's not on here, Leona, and I really do recommend Morgana, but that's because she's really strong right now. Brom's really permabanned, so I can't really recommend him, and I really can't see him all the time. I don't know. He's really hard to distinguish how strong he is all the time because he is banned a lot through all ranks. Now, for mage mid laners, low ELO, Akali can work, but you can also go with champs that are safer than Akali, that do kind of the same job. And those are champs like Syndra. Syndra's kind of a nuker. She's not really the assassin, but she does fairly the same job at a safer rate. She has good amount of utility. She's very, very powerful in the right hands. And she's excuse me, she's actually really fun to play. So Syndra is really good to play mid lane. Also, you really want to try to stay away from the brands. You want to try to stay away of non-utility mid laners. And the reason for that is you want to have your mid laner with utility low ELO because of the team fighting. You don't want to be picking like Vlad mid. You don't want to be picking Brand mid, like I said. You don't want to be picking even the Karthus mid. You want mid laners that can team fight, because that is what low ELO is really revolving around, is team fights. So what are really good, in my opinion, mid to late team fighters? And that would be the Syndra. That would be the Oriannas. That would that would be the Xerath. Xerath's actually a really good team fighter because he does so much damage. But if you can't play any of those, you want to try to gear your way, and you want to try to get towards those mid laners, the utilities and utility mid laners. I mean, there's other mid laners you can choose. In my opinion, champs like Talon, Akali, Zed are actually really strong, but people really don't know how to play the mid lane that well, and it really creates kind of a moment for your team. Champs like Ahri aren't that bad because they have a good amount of utility, but what the thing is, you really have to gear yourself early and try to get a little ahead, because Ahri plays much worse than an Orianna, plays much worse than a Syndra, plays much worse than a Xerath when they're at equal gold. She plays much better ahead because she can nuke, and she's an assassin, and she plays like the Akali, but she's also kind of tricky to get ahead low ELO because people don't know when to roam. They don't have proper ward control. There isn't proper pink ward control. There isn't proper sweeper control. And all of this kind of creates a hard to play certain roster of champions. So you really want to kind of get a tier list in your head. You want to play the really strong solo queue low ELO champs. Now, some that are actually really good low ELO, are also Ziggs. Ziggs is really good low ELO, really good solo queue. I recommend playing him too. He's also really good in team fights. So you really want to stick to like Ziggs, Xerath, Syndra. I love Syndra, Orianna. Those are the four big ones to an AP carries low ELO, because they're not too hard to play and they offer a lot of AoE utility. Syndra offering the least of the utility. Actually, I would say Xerath has the least of the utility, but they both do separate jobs. You have the Xerath if you want to really poke them back before you fight, and you have a little bit of global pressure. Ziggs, same thing. You want to poke them back, global pressure, but he also does a huge amount of AoE damage, and the fights loyal are really AoE related. They revolve around AoE. Orianna's really good too. You got huge utility in the ult. You got slow. You got a shield. You got huge damage. She's also a really good mid laner. And Syndra kind of does good damage, but she could also kill the backline pretty easily and get in the backline pretty easily because of her E. Now, when it comes to like assassin mid laners, there we go. These are often sought out picks too. So, who's also good low ELO mid lane is also Kassadin. Very good mage if built right. I do not now Fizz is really strong, and the reason he's strong is because he rolls these mid laners. But the thing is he's actually not the greatest of champs. You can play Fizz, and I would actually rather say Fizz than Akali. I'd rather say you play Fizz than Zed. But if anything, I would like people to play more safer picks, because Fizz is actually really hard to play. We have the people, you can't rush Lichbane on him. That's one thing. If you happen to be a Fizz player, don't rush the Lichbane. It is not good. It gives you no damage. You wasted a whole amount of early game gold, and you really have to play with your matchups with Fizz, because you don't want to go behind in CS and just go for kills. So those are your real good mid laners. I really don't think LeBlanc's that good, and she's really hard to play. So if you're going to play an assassin, I recommend trying to learn Talon, because he's very strong in the right hands, and I think he can do a lot of work. But Fizz isn't bad, and Kassadin aren't bad for like the main, like the core assassins if you're going to go mid lane. Yasuo, I really don't recommend too much low ELO. If you can play him, good, but he's really hard to play low ELO, and if you mess up once, he pretty much goes down. So he's really tough to play. So I just recommend playing the safer champs till you really get a hold of your mechanics. You really get a hold of yourself getting better. So those are real good picks for that. Now top lane, there's a pretty big variety. You got right now. You have the Maokai top, who's still really strong. Not as strong as before, still really strong, easy to lane. He's really good, so that's good for your tank tops. Alistar's really good tank top, and so those are your two big tank tops, actually, like full big tank tops. I mean, you have your Renekton, but he's more of a bruiser now, and you have your Shyvana, and you have your Mundo, but see, because Mundo actually isn't that bad of a pick, but I recommend out of all those, out of all the tanks, I'd really recommend Maokai and Alistar right now. And then because they're way better as tanks than the Shyvana, the Renekton. The Mundo is kind of an it pick and can go either way. But in terms of fighters, which would be the bruisers, I really recommend you try to get your hands on the Aurelia, really good top laner. Try to get your hands on the what am I trying to say? The Shyvana, really, really good top laner. She can be a tank, she can be a bruiser, she can snowball, and I also recommend, the Gragas. Gragas still isn't that bad, and I kind of like him in certain matchups, so he's also pretty good. In terms of out of the way top laners, I recommend Rumble. He's a really strong team fighter. He gets a little getting used to, but he's really strong. You really want to, in my opinion, stay away from the Fiora. Stay away from Garen. Good God, just never play him. He is the biggest low ELO bait there is. Do not play Garen. I actually don't like Jax that much because he can be destroyed so easily in lane now. He's actually not the greatest of champs. You have Renekton, but he's kind of starting to... He got nerfed a lot early game, and his team fighting isn't always the greatest. So I really don't recommend him. Pantheon top, you don't want none of that. Nasus top does work low ELO, but you have to know how to transition and not just farm, because low ELO, like I says about team fighting, and I mean, in future episodes, I can talk about how to actually lane better, how to do certain lanes better. But in reality, just to focus on improving one thing, you really want to just improve your champion pool. I recommend just staying with these core champs. Rumble really strong, Shyvana really strong. What they play in the LCS is actually really, really good. There's a lot of solo queue picks that can carry low ELO that you can get your hands on. If you're really good with them, go ahead. If you can play a Yasuo, go ahead. You can play the Akali, go ahead. You can play the Fiora and carry, go ahead. But if your team comp isn't going to fully work and you're not going to destroy, you don't want those picks. You want to go safer. You want to go with what your team's going to be able to work with. And that's why you kind of want to watch and see what the LCS is picking just for this certain champ. So, you always want to think of utility in all your picks. And that's the biggest thing. When you see a team of 5 and they have the Akali, the Fiora, they have a Yi jungle, that team can be completely countered and destroyed literally instantaneously. And they have no team fight pressure. Now, sometimes those team comps can work, but you have to know how to play those, and not too many people know how to do it. There's not enough teamwork low ELO to do that. So what you really want to do is you want to get your team phase, your champion selection phase. You want to try to lead your team into better picks. You want to try to get a good team comp that I say all around. We'll say we'll have the Rumble top. Okay, for the jungle, we'll go with a Vi, because she's really good in the jungle. We'll go mid lane, we'll go Orianna. For AD carry, we'll do Tristana. And then for support, based on all of that, we'll go with Thresh. And that's a really good team comp, because you have your initiation, you have technically Vi can initiate, Thresh can initiate. So you got 2 initiators, and you have follow-up engage. That's the Orianna Rumble. Huge damage that can change a team fight instantaneously, and you have your Tristana, your backline hard carry. And all this works together really well. You have a really strong front line because Rumble actually is very strong in the front line. You have Vi who can really get to any target she wants. You have your Orianna who separates, who kind of pulls the front line and back line together. You have Thresh who can peel, who can stop the front line from getting to the back line, who can flay people around, change the rate of the team fight. And you have Tristana who's really safe in the back line, but it also scales and does a really good amount of damage. So overall, that's a good team comp, and you want to kind of get team comp similar to that. Try to get maybe an Aurelia top, get the Aurelia top going. Then we want kind of a more utility-based jungler, just because you had the Bruiser top, but Aurelia's utility isn't through the roof, so you'll go with. You could actually go in this situation out of junglers. You could do the. You can actually yet again. You could actually probably do a Vi pick. You could do the Vi pick. You could do an Elise pick still because she's still really strong. The Jarvan. Actually, I say it Jarvan. So Jarvan would probably be a really good pick with Aurelia top. So we have the Aurelia Jarvan. Mid lane, in that situation, you have a really strong front line. So what you're going to really want is a lot of, damage. So we'll go with a Xerath or a Ziggs. And then for AD carry, in that situation, we'll go with a Lucian or Caitlyn. So we got those two picks kind of rapid fire. I mean, Caitlyn is kind of she kind of like finishes carries off, and Lucian kind of does the same thing. But we're going to go with Lucian, Caitlyn, and then for support, you're going to really want like the middle ground support, like what I was talking about. So you could do a Thresh because he's always go-to, or you could do a Nami, and those lanes would work really well, and you'd have a pretty good team fight. So those are the kind of team comps you really want to work with. So try to work your best with those team comps, and that's one way to make gold games much better, is just try to lead your team. Lead your team, be like, how about can you play this? Don't be like, play this, that pick is terrible. Just try to work with your team. And if you can change the game with a pick and can make your team comp really good, then go for it. Be the leader, take your chance, and you'll slowly improve that way. That's literally one of the best ways to improve is champion phase. There's a lot more I could get into. I mean, you have your poke comps and all that, but in reality, we just want to get down to base of it and just try to get a good team comp first. Just try to get your team fights down and see how that works for you. You will see improvement. And just try to lead your team. Like I said, you want to try to get your role that you want. And if you can't, then play and then you have your backup 2 roles. But try to play really good utility-based champs. They are so good low ELO solo queue. I mean, you do have your Talons, your Fizzes that rape. And like I said, there's no problem. If you can play Talon or Fizz mid, that's really good. But just try to make sure your team kind of makes up for it. Because if you get a huge utility comp around the Talon or Fizz, you're going to do huge. If you have an assassin-based team comp, you can actually carry easily. But you really have to build your team comps. You have to build your team comps around the pick. I mean, if you already have the Fiora top, the Fizz pick is going to You already have the assassin. Try to get something else going. So really just don't be too greedy with your picks, and just try to play what you can play best, and stick to the stronger picks, and you'll see an improvement. Like the champion selection screen, is always about 50-50. I mean, you may not always have the chance to have the better champion selection. Oh my god, I can't even talk. The champion selection screen, or you may have a bad champion selection screen with people having attitudes and stuff. But just try always to have a better one. I mean, that happens everywhere, that people have the bad champion selection screens, and you just got to go with the flow. You will slowly improve. Just work on that. If you're maining Draven, just my opinion, just kind of put him to the side for now. Get your base mechanics down. Draven's very hard to play. And like I said, there's certain champs in this game where if the person was actually good, and I mean really good, they would be high ELO. Like if you could play Draven, you'll be high ELO. If you can actually play Draven, I'm talking about actually play him, you'll be high ELO guaranteed, just because of how his kit works. So this is really just a quick tip video about the champion selection screen. Now I'm going to follow it up with actual like scenarios and trying to get a good team comp built, and I will maybe make some charts and stuff to see like if they pick this and this, what can you pick? And you just want to have the stronger team comp. So it's just one of the first ways to winning. I mean, it decides, in my opinion, 50% of your game right there. That will determine 50% of your game is that champion select screen. And even in the LCS, the better champion, the better picks can literally win an entire game. So picks are huge. It's not just something to shrug over. You know, people may have their bad games in game, but a lot of these close losses come down to team comps, and a lot of these losses comes down to team comps. So this is it for this video. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this in the future, and my next video is going to be about builds, in-game builds, and leadership. So talk more about that. We'll see how this video went. It was a little shaky because, you know, I'm just trying to start off, you know, doing this whole vlogging thing, tips videos thing. So we'll see how it goes. So thank you guys. This is DJ C3 from Discussion Junkies with a tip video about champion selection screen. This is part 1, and part 2, like I said, will be about leadership and builds, in like when to build stuff, in-game builds and stuff, which also determine a huge amount of the game. So thank you guys. I hope you guys have happy ELO hunting with this. And if you have any questions, you know, just create an account, Discussion Junkies, or just private message me on there, and I'd love to help you. So talk to you guys later.